All right, what's going on, boys? So today I'm going to be going over some trade recaps from today. Today was basically just QQQ and QQQ only. As far as QQQ goes, this was a really, really, really nice trade that I've been calling for quite some time, and I want to dive into basically how we talk about where the drawn liquidity could be from the downside or the upside, and how the window of weakness works, and how it kind of ties in with identifying distribution off of like these previous historic bear gaps, and then the preliminary distribution that was occurring on the initial test, right? And that initial test was actually into the beginning of October, right? And then we built up a lot of buy side liquidity that was sitting off of 478.30, and then we moved our way higher. Oh, I should say sell side. I don't know what the terminology is for fucking ICT, right? But I would just say a lot of buy stops off of this area. I don't like that's why I say buy side. I don't know if that's what you guys call it, but then we filled the entirety of the gap, and that was actually right into the window of weakness, right? So post October OPEX, and then after October OPEX, which was October 18th, we led into a window of weakness where we were sitting within a gap that was then capitulated through, and then we were getting digestion right beneath the gap that we actually lost, right? So this was a breakaway gap within a bear gap, right? So you can basically conclude to yourself that a seller moved their ask higher from this area, right? Because these are relatively low volume ranges. These were higher volume ranges where a seller was kind of getting a little aggro over there. And then obviously with the diminished spread, with no really big notable uh, vol- volume pouring in to the market over here, we can conclude that a seller kind of played a little bit more passively up into the fill of the entire gap, which was sitting at 496.34, right? And then once we filled, like I said, the entire gap, that's whenever we capitulated. Um, and then what happened was we got a mark down all the way into the bottom of the gap. We found a higher low. Once we found that higher low on this daily candle right here, we then marked up via data, and then obviously right into the open off of data was into the top of the NWOG, and then we redistributed. And then whenever we redistributed, we sat within the range of the redistribution, right? So that's whenever we could start concluding that we have a potential lower high from this high all the way up here, which was a fake break and breach above the gap into a straight on full out sell, very aggressive sell. Then once we push back up into this and we start finding lower highs, we could start really concluding to ourselves that we do have an LPS that's being formed here. So the markdown phase and the sign of weakness phase, every phase after that can come relatively fast, because we do only have a 2 week window here where we can really start executing hedges, puts, stuff like that, right? So this was a beautiful opportunity to start thinking about sizing into some further dated shorts. Um, and then start obviously de-risking any sort of long side exposure you have in your port, and then that's what exactly happened. Basically what we did was we took the top of the range right over here from 496.34, and that is the entire daily gap at the top, right? And then we have an NWOG that's sitting right over here off of 496, and then we basically held that as a as a resistance all throughout OPEX, and then obviously leading into we held it into Monday as well, right? And then we had a fake breakdown followed by a recovery off of this overnight gap. And then we started to push our way higher. However, the whole entire trade and the risk basis off of the trade was all off of 496.34. And then that's what led to a markdown followed by a break and a breach through all of this range of support, right? I was pretty much just looking for us to break right through 491.35, because you always got to remember, guys, what is the true structure break? And I would say the more relevant break in structure would be definitely to the downside, because this is technically a higher low attempt on the daily. However, this was basically a higher low to then redistribute higher, right? So you got to think, like, when this is pushing down into the bottom of the gap and then it's finding itself a daily higher low for the time being, and it marks up via data. Where did you enter on this trade? 496. Do I think Q is going to mark down all the way to 470s? Yeah. So we had a markdown, and the secondary sign of distribution that was happening into the top of the gap, and a failure to get above that gap right into a window of weakness. So is that a coincidence to you, or are things lining up for the market to sell? For me, it's not a coincidence. Nothing's a coincidence. So we get the higher low right into the data set that happens Thursday. Thursday comes out. We gap up off the data set into the top of the NWOG. The NWOG is a territory it's a very how can I put this? Sellers are very territorial. I don't know if that's a word, over that spot, right? So whenever they capitulate it right through, and then you have a lot of imbalances on the capitulation that pushes through with an aggressive ask right through the NWOG, and then you get the markup via data, it's going to redistribute again because we're collecting liquidity within this candle, right? And this is the most dominant candle in the whole range in terms of volume, in terms of candle, in terms of a spread to a candle. So whenever you hold that range and you just hold it for consecutive lower volume, tight range daily prints, and it's all just sitting within a bear gap in a window of weakness, I'm not going to tie too much data that I look at in terms of like options, because that's too much sauce for Twitter. But as far as this goes, with just price action, with just effort versus result, with just the window that we're in, post OPEX, flows get shut down. There's an opportunity for the market to sell. You have so many people kind of lopsided on one particular trade idea, and that being a blow off top into the end of the year. They don't understand the flows, and then they get sold off on, and then that allows big money to build more of a position at where a chart would be more balanced at. Because, well, number one rule of mine, guys, is that charts need to be balanced before they move higher, right? So you want to fill these gaps down here. There was also some prints down here as far as like dark pools go all the way down into 471, right? So we're either going to push down into the low 480s, and if not, we will likely sweep into the gap or test all the way to the bottom at 471.44, depending on how much distribution wants to obviously happen in the future, right? Because if we leave gaps unfilled and then we start getting these low volume moves higher into the election, and I don't really know how that's going to behave. I'm only 21 years old, so I don't know like what an election environment is going to be like in terms of volume, in terms of all that stuff. Like, I was involved with the market back then on the last election, but that was not anything like what I'm doing right now. So do I know exactly how the whole thing is going to play out? No. And am I going to trade it actively throughout the whole entire election? Am I going to put a lot of risk on the table in Q4? Probably not. I think the market might bring us a little bit of a letdown, to be honest. I am bullish leading into the end of the year. I think we mark down for the next week. And then once we kind of complete this whole markdown and the chart looks a little bit more structurally complete, then I will start putting some risk alongside, or just kind of rat out commons into the end of the year for a gain. And then, yeah, we have 2025. So Gauge 470 has a big print on the dark pool. We also kind of have a couple other data points that tie in with 471, 472-ish kind of being the bottom, but I do just want this liquidity swept that's off 478, if that makes sense. Am I necessarily going to bet and roll consecutively to get down there? No, because the risk to rewards are already worse. Like I said, with a window of weakness, guys, by no means is this any sort of like, oh yeah, the market's going to sell, it's going to capitulate, it's going to die, it's going to be a parabolic, it's going to be such a beautiful short. You're going to get the easiest money ever in your life. No, no, no. I don't think so. But it's an opportunity to size passively into the highs, into the lower highs, into the LPSs, into these gaps. This is tying into a beautiful area on the chart. And this is just not strong enough structure, or it's just not strong enough to see a move higher into the end of the year from here. Could it be a little bit lower? Of course, right? I mean, we have a very heavy volume candle relative to the rest of the range that we actually got today. So, and this was actually the second biggest volume that we had was October 1st, and that was also kind of a distributive looking bar, right? So you guys always got to think like campaigns take a little bit to build time, and they were building this position on the initial test of the gap, and then you basically have to analyze the effort. Basically, is how much of a willing bid is willing to pin price above this previous high. And does this look strong to you? Because it does not look strong to me, and it's tying in perfectly with the whole NWOG. And yeah, I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful short opportunity for a while. So, yeah. And I told you guys all about this for weeks, so. Tim Walz is on my feed. What the fuck? Get the fuck off my feed. I feel like a fucking loser. Get the fuck off my feed, you fucking dork. It's funny because every fucking, oh dude, I'm not gonna say much. I just can't stand them people. They really do piss me the fuck off. It's cool though. It's cool. Does anybody have any questions, or am I talking to a wall, bro? Like fuck. I had some before, but now the chat's kind of getting dead. I'm gonna slug this brewski real quick while I wait on a question. Oh wait, I forgot to go over more of the trade recaps. Okay. Um. Alrighty. So the other ones were GM. Beautiful chart over here on GM, and I want to talk about like a path of the least resistance model post-spring structure development. This is your spring, right? And then obviously once you get out of that spring, and you guys don't have to look at it from this level, right? Because these are just the higher lows that happened afterwards, right? But we had a support over here on the daily chart, and then we swept that support, and we almost swept the support with ease, right? And then we ripped our ways back higher, put in higher lows on top of the chart, and I guess this could be your most recent low that happened over here. Which was a breakdown failure. This whole entire thing is a breakdown failure. Obviously, the volume was increasing, but it got to be its highest basically on a neutral based candle. It was down 3% on the day given the gap down. However, it wasn't anything too significant, right? That volume is not significant. And then it rips its way back higher, flags right on top, claims the gap and holds the gap. This is the gap level right over here. It basically holds the gap to a T and then moves its way higher back up into the upper extremes. We had previous volume coming off of this candle that was huge, right? So you always want to cover the tops of that candle and then see what the effort is off of the covering major bear spreads like this on huge daily candles that have a lot of liquidity that are sitting within them. And as you guys can see, the volume kind of dries up, and then it pushes back down and starts finding these discounted higher lows. Two beautiful discounted higher lows on the weekly. Now we're pushing back up into the resistance. Beautiful breakout spot now, because guess what? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tests of the resistance, and there was no supply setting off the resistance into the report. And we got the slightest gap up, but that's all you need. That's all you need, because you know intraday price action could potentially push this thing higher, given the fact that there's absolutely no supply up here, right? It's gone. This has been tested way too many times. We already had the shakeout. We already had the recollection of everything that's needed for a position to be built for this thing to send like pretty damn far. And that's what we got, right? So very simple trade here. If you go into the 15 or like the hourly, go into the 15, put on extended. We had like a little mark up, and then it just stayed flat, and then we got the opening print above this big daily level at like 50. So your risk is $50. Once it claims the pre-market high, you could start risking the pre-market high after it claims that. You go into like your go into your 5, and you should be sizing in this candle. I hate to say it, but like, yeah, you should be. Would you rather enter this off breakout or a test off the spring? I'm trading options here. I'm not trading shares. As far as shares go, a test off the spring, of course. Yeah, down here. Um, I was actually over Ford on this one. This was August 8th. You go over to Ford on August 8th. I believe I was on Ford at the same time. Uh, no, I was on Ford over here on the fake breakdown reclaim, and then higher low, and then a push higher, and then I was on it again into July. No, I wasn't on that. But let's go back over to what's it called? What was I on? Oh, GM. Um, as far as options goes, I'm just talking about like a in and out trade, like an options trade, not like long term investing, but like on the spring, of course. But do we know that this is a clear spring? No. Higher lows subsequently, we can obviously take an ad. This is a little bit speculative down here, but we notice the spring, we notice the higher lows, we notice the double bottom, we notice constructive higher lows being put in on the weekly and daily. And then obviously as we lead up into the resistance, we take an opening print above the gap up is the risk into the report. And then we look for the breakout, right? It's a very simple flush trade, guys. This is actually a very simple trade. I feel like a ton of people can understand this. All right, let's slug this brewski real quick. Oh, this is a tasty one. Stella Artois. Do you guys like this beer? I love it. I'm at that white level after the spring. Was T a similar flush trade on its report today? It looks similar. Not too many things can get similar in terms of a level to be risking off of with GM, I'm not going to lie. Let's take a look at T. Beautiful flush. Yeah. This is more all beer good. Yeah, I slug Brierski. Ooh. Dude, I slug brewskis. Anyway, T was a very similar chart when you go to the daily. Really nice multi-week base here. Actually, Jeff, I'm so glad you pointed this out, man. And if you told me about this in the morning, I would be fucking trading this. Yeah, beautiful look, dude. Beautiful look. If you go to the weekly, you go to the daily. This is all just a base, and it's not as nice. I don't think it's as nice as GM. But man, I mean, you just take out a multi-week support, and then you hold the range, and it's a flat. Oh my gosh! And it got a mark up, and that. Oh, so you traded the flush today? Nice trade, dude. Good shit. So yeah, it takes out. It basically pushes right into the previous day low, and then it holds it. Take off the pre-market. And this is just, I mean, you could take it above this bar too if you want on minimal size. Like, you don't want to be taking a lot of size if your fill's up here on something like this. You don't really want to be, but it's a very clear signal that this thing's ready to go and it has enough liquidity on hand with that kind of volume to be able to push out of the range, right? Like, you always need counterparty, you always need sometimes an event whenever the auction of a range is too dry like this. Dude, I got the burps after that beer slug. When did I slug that beer? I don't know. All right, well, I need to pop a Zinski in and then finish up my recording and then upload it because I know everybody can't tune into the stream, and I yapped for the first 30 minutes. So I'm going to finish strong here. VZ2. Yeah, so VZ is probably another really nice sympathy trade to this one. Obviously, it had a mark down to earnings, so it's not the cleanest in terms of recent, obviously, volume pouring into a name on a recent scale. But, I mean, it's still a beautiful trade. I would still consider this to be a really nice trade for a sympathy trade the next following day to, what's it called? To, what's that name? T. 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 Yeah, T. T was nicer, though. T's beautiful. I actually have commons of T. That's another one that I have. I don't really pay attention to everything that I have from a common scale, but I bought this a long time ago. Like down here, bro. Like, or over here. Well, down here and over here. Like, all throughout this range. So, yeah. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Oh my gosh. All right, so the other trades that I had on the week. Oh, what did I have? We already went over Roblox. We already went over hi Gage. Oh, my camera turned off. My bad. I unplugged it a little bit by accident. Ooh. Man. I need another brewski. KR, let me go grab another brewski, and then we'll talk about KR, because I'm going to slam a brewski. I'll be back. Real quick, real quick. Hello, hello. KR. KR is a beautiful name from a volume standpoint. I love KR. Man, is this chart beautiful. Like, you talk about a beautiful chart gauge. This is, you cannot get cleaner. Multi-week accumulation down here. that led to a beautiful markup that gave us a signal. Right now, you just got to be the patient guy, not the crazy porn brain. And what that led to was a higher low, right? If you take a look at this from low to high, higher low, discounted higher low, $50 sake, and then it got a pop, structure within structure, higher low within higher low, secondary higher low right over here, another big volume pop, and then a retest from a weekly perspective of internal based previous lower high attempts that are obviously failing now with the markup, the breakout on the weekly, because this is the most local wick. So I would give that the level of significance. If you go into the daily, basically that wick. And as you guys can see, things kind of just dried up and you got really nice rest on top of the level, and now you're getting your markup. I mean, I love the chart, dude. Do I think it's ready for all-time high with this volume on the weekly? I do. Just when? I mean, it's going to all-time highs, but when is the answer? And is earnings gonna fuck it up? I don't know. That's November 25th. It probably makes a nice move to the upside by then, I would think. Dude, brewskis are so nice. Bro's getting drunk on stream. Hell yeah. I want a beer. I'm out. Yeah. You need a beer. That's what you need. Everyone needs a beer here and there. Everyone needs a brewski at some point. Oh, look at how beautiful that is. Gage, by the looks of my beer, do you think I pour my beer right? Oh, do you think I pour this beer right? I want to hear your opinion. What are we thinking? Is that a bad pour or a good pour? I honestly am very curious because I'm a beer connoisseur. Yes, it's all in there, but like what level of foam, like what level of gas do you like in a beer? Because I personally pour it like that bartender that has the bar shows, not bartender, the bar like business guy, and he pours it like I'm pouring it. And everyone's like, "Dude, you're pouring it too hard. Leave the gas in there." But then I feel like a fucking Goodyear blimp if I drink 20 beers, and I don't really have much problems when I pour it like a normal person that isn't a Bitcoin trendline retest guy. I literally am going to start calling people Bitcoin trendline retest zombies. That's what I'm going to start saying. And then you put your finger in the beer so the salt from your finger gets in there, takes down the foam. I'm a master with beer, dude. So nelk, dude. I'm weird. Anyway, what's another good chartski? Oh, dude. Okay, I gotta end the recording, bro. It's been